The way I look at it is every day we have two buckets put in front of us, and they're buckets not of our choice. The global pandemic is real, and it put a bucket in front of us, a bucket of burden. The business is closed. There's no more travel. The publishers shut, it's a burden. And then there's a bucket of blessing. And you choose the bucket you carry around every day.
Welcome to the Daron Earlewine podcast, where we awaken you to become who you were born to be. Here's your host, Daron Earlewine.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Daron Earlewine podcast. So stoked to have you in the mix. The crowd is hype. No live studio audience today, sadly enough. That was fun though. Episode with Charlie Alcock. We had the live studio audience. Good energy when there was people in the room. But hey, today it's just you and me, and I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for downloading the podcast, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much for those of you that have left a review recently or shared the podcast with friends, neighbors, enemies, whatever it is. It means a lot to hear from you and to see your support. So thanks so much for listening, for downloading, for subscribing. And I want to give a huge shout out to listener Marcy. And past couple episodes, we've been talking about just moving from being just a listener to an investor with us here with Blackbird Mission and with the Daron Earlewine podcast, and invite some of you guys to consider joining us if the podcast is making an impact on your life, to join us financially to help us continue on as a ministry. And you guys are doing that. I just want to give a big shout out to listener Marcy, who joined us this month as a partner. And even more than that, she really went next level. And so this is her coffee mug that I am going to she lives here in Indianapolis, and I'm going to deliver to her house. Now, but listen, if you don't live within like 15 minutes of my house, I'm not going to bring, it's not the deal. It's not like if you become a podcast partner and you live in like Kansas, then I'm going to bring you a coffee mug. Now, I might, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Kansas City taking my son to a baseball tournament. If you're a listener in Kansas City and you join us as a financial partner, I will bring you a coffee mug to Kansas in 2 weeks. If it's next month, it's just, we're going to mail it to you. That's how it's going to happen. But anyway, Marcy, thank you so much for your partnership. And thank you guys so much for trusting us with the influence in your life, but also trusting us in financially investing and allowing this ministry to grow. And guys, this week, I get the chance to sit down with, this is kind of crazy for me, but my high school band director. And so I was in marching band and symphonic band all 4 years of high school. Drumming is a major passion of my life. It was my original passion in life. And since third grade on, all I wanted to do was be a drummer. And Tempe High School is where I went to high school, in Tempe, Arizona. And when I got to Tempe, Arizona, the band director, he had been there for 2 years. And what I didn't realize, and I find out on this podcast, I think when you're a kid, right, you think all your teachers are like super old. I found out as we did the podcast that Mr. Lang, Scott Lang is our guest. Scott Lang was our band director. And I didn't realize he was literally like 25 years old when he was leading our band. And he was probably 5'8" or so, and just an absolute uncontrollable ball of fiery energy and leadership. And I was terrified of him. I admired him. I was inspired by him, and I was led well by him. And it's you're gonna be full of energy when you finish this podcast. Trust me. And we're gonna actually make it this 2 episodes because it went too long. And there's gonna be the second episode that we do with Scott Lang. It's gonna be kind of like a workshop, where he's going to actually take me through personally some of the things he challenges me and challenges you to think about in our life. We kind of workshop that in the second half. And so this is going to be a 2-part episode, but it's just so funny to look back and to realize the influence. And I guess the word's not funny. It's enlightening. And in this case, for me, it's inspiring, but I think it can also be something that could stir a lot of regret as you look back and see the people who have had great influence on your life, if it's not in a positive way. But as I sat down and got a chance to talk to Scott Lang, I realized that those 4 years of life for me, from 1993 or 1992 to 1996, he gave me a passion for leadership development. He gave me a passion to believe the best of myself, to do what I could do to the best of my abilities. He taught me how to be a leader. He taught me how to be an excellent drummer. He inspired me so much. And I think what's funny is as a punk kid, I don't even know that I understood the level of influence he had on my life until here I am, over 20 years later, looking back and realizing how much my life has been influenced by his example. And it's crazy to think that as he was doing that, he was just a 25-year-old punk kid himself. And here's the question I want you to ask as we jump into the interview here in just a minute is, I've said this before, and I've stole it from somebody, is that you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And oftentimes when I quote that, I think about how these 5 people that I'm around right now, how they're affecting and impacting my life right now. What's interesting is that some of the podcasts we've been recording and released right now, I've gone back and I'm reaching out to people that have been in my life. They were maybe in my life 20, 25 years ago that I've not been around a lot recently. But as I talk to them, I'm realizing how much of an impact they made on my life. And so that's something I want you to see, that even the weight of the influence of the people that you surround yourself with is, it may be 20 years down the road that you look back and go, these people were a big part of helping me become who I was born to be. But in that case, I do want you to take some time and look at your life right now. Is who are the 5 people that you spend the majority of your time with? And are they the kind of people you want to become? Because here's what one of the things, the takeaways I want you to have from this episode is this, is becoming who you were born to be doesn't happen on accident. I'm going to say that again because I wanted to soak into you. Becoming who you were born to be doesn't happen on accident. And so you listen to this podcast because you're trying to step into who God's created you to be. I'm so glad you're listening. I'm so glad you're watching. But here's the reality is, if you're not surrounding yourself right now with people who embody the next version, or maybe 2 or 3 versions down the road of who you want to become, the chances of you becoming a person that would inspire your current self, if you met yourself down the road, is slim to none. You have to be intentional about the community you create and the habits and the disciplines that you employ. And Scott Lang's going to take you on that journey. He's going to share in this his life mission, right? Is to make you better by my presence than you would have been in my absence. Such a good thought. I want you to think about that. After you get done listening to this, as you're going through your next week, as you're looking at the 5 people you spend the most time with, as you look at the 5 people there are people in your life that maybe you are on that list and you don't even realize the influence you're having. But to say, you know what? Do I make people better by my presence than they would have been in my absence? Does my presence in their life do something to unlock something that God's doing in their life to make them the next best version of themselves? Or is being around me actually making them less of who God's created them to be? These are big questions. Mr. Lang, you're going to hear me struggle with this in this episode, is Scott Lang. To me, he's still Mr. Lang. I'm still a 15-year-old kid in high school when I talk to him. He's going to talk and take us through this journey of this past 18 months that literally saved his life. He's going to talk about what COVID did. Is he was traveling 200 dates a year. Here's the bio is that Scott Lang, he's an inspiring leadership, laughter, and learning coach. And for over 3 decades, Scott has been educating and advocating for music education. He's a nationally known leadership trainer, and he conducts over 100 workshops annually, and he works with some of the country's finest educational groups and performing ensembles. He takes his love as a band director now, and he teaches leadership and advocacy for music all over the nation. And he was traveling all over the nation, teaching and inspiring kids. And in a moment when COVID shut down schools last year, everything stopped. Everything that brought him meaning and satisfaction, everything that he was, his identity, his travel schedule, everything, it stopped in a moment. And what he learned over the past 18 months has changed and is transforming his life. And he's going to encourage and he's going to implore and he's going to inspire you with crazy energy to not let this moment pass you by and miss the absolute transformational moment that this past year could have been. He's going to talk about the fact that this past year, you can see it in two buckets, a bucket of burden and a bucket of blessing. A bucket of burden and a bucket of blessing. There's two buckets, and you choose every day which one you pick up. And as you look back over the past year, you may have things that look like a burden that COVID brought into your life. And they may be very real. You may have lost a loved one. You may have battled it yourself. You may have lost a job. You may have lost a relationship. You may have just felt like you've lost time. There are things that you're going to look back on. You're going to go, that is a huge bucket of burden. And if you focus on that bucket of burden and allow that suffering and that loss to be what defines you, you will not step into this next season of life with the momentum of who God's creating you to be. However, right next to that bucket of burden is a bucket of blessing. And here's the opportunity, is the opportunity to take time and to stop down and to look at what are the blessings that may have looked like curses to begin with over this past 18 months that you can pick up and that can inform and can transform who you are and who you're becoming. This process actually is a very biblical one. It comes from Romans chapter 5, and it says this: we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who he has given us. Buckets of blessings, sometimes coming as a burden, as a suffering. But if we will allow it to do its work, what suffering does, it's going to produce that perseverance and the character and the hope that we need to become who we were born to be. You're going to be challenged. You're going to be inspired in this episode. When we come back, I'm going to do a little recap. And, it's so good. Get ready. Full energy, full throttle conversation with Scott Lang, my high school band director. Taught me how to march, play drums, be a leader. So good. So good. Buckets of blessings, buckets of burden. Which one are you going to pick up? What decisions are you going to make to become who you were born to be? All right. Coming to us from sunny, beautiful Chandler, Arizona, my high school band director, Scott Lang. I know what you do, and I know the impact you've had on my life, but I think one of the interesting things is, obviously, when you're an idiot, 16, 15-year-old, like, I'm not like, asking, like, I don't know your story. It's like the great impact you had in my life and the hunger and imagination you gave me for leadership through marching band. Like, I just realized as I was prepping for today's interview, I'm really excited to talk today, because I'm like, I don't know where that came from, for you. I don't know that part of your story, because for me as an idiot kid, like, you were just, you were, our band instructor and our leader, but I never thought about, context of that. So excited to get to hear more of your story and then be able to let our audience be a part of it.
Here's the thing. You got to remember, Daron, is that when you turned 24, you were older than I was when I was teaching you. I was only 6 years older than you guys.
No way.
Blows your mind, doesn't it? Because when students reach back out and they're like, I'm 32 and I have 2 kids, I go, you're 7 years older than I was when I was teaching you. So when you talk about what my story and what my journey was and what my inspiration was, it really was the other way around. Is you guys were the ones that were pushing me. You guys were the ones that were making me find new and creative ways to teach. You guys really were the guinea pigs that allowed me to be the teacher I ended up evolving to be. And so, I flip it right back on you is that all you crew that was a part of that era gave me a purpose in life and gave me a direction in life that allowed me to do what I'm doing today. Had it not been for that group of kids, had it not been for that moment, had it not been for that experience, had it not been for that opportunity, I would be in a very different place today, a very different place. So for me, I realized early on, and I was teaching out of fear, and most teachers do, by the way, teach out of fear because you don't know what you're doing. It takes 5 years before you even have a vague clue. And during that period of time, I realized, listen, I don't have the teaching tools. I don't have the chops to do this on my own. So if I don't engage the kids, if I don't elevate their game, if I don't bring them on par as a part of that teaching and leading experience, then I'm not going to be able to do this, because I'm just flat out not good enough as a teacher to do it all on my own. Maybe there are people out there that are, but this guy ain't one of them. And so it was really, survival in many ways. It was, Darwin going, well, you're going to fail or you're going to succeed. And if you're going to succeed, you better figure this part out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then, somewhere along the line, and I can't point to a day or a time, and barring a traumatic event, most people can't, I realized that was really my calling. That my calling, that music was the vehicle, but developing people was my purpose. And, the thing I've always said, and it's been true since I knew you, is, and I may have shared it with you at some point in a leadership retreat, and I'm kind of having a flashback that I might have done that, which is my purpose in life is to make you better in my presence than you would have been in my absence. And that has remained unchanged for 30 plus years. Better at what? I don't care. I don't get to control what you take from our experiences. I get to control what I deliver. So if you become a better musician, that's fantastic. If you become better disciplined, that's fantastic. If you become better at being kind, that's fantastic. If you become better at being prompt, that's fantastic. But to know that your life was in some way made better because of time spent with me than it would have been had I been absent from your life. And that mission has remained unchanged, and the vehicle has remained unchanged, which is music, but the payload changed, the cargo I'm carrying, and where I'm delivering it, and who I'm delivering it to, and how I'm delivering it. Imagine this now, Daron. You and I lived in a world in which we were in a 40 by 40 band room, or we were outside on a field, and now we're talking on the internet on a podcast that you're in Indiana that's going to be broadcast throughout the world.
Oh yeah.
So, but the payload never changed. The delivery vehicle is changing, and it changes every day. And it will continue to evolve and continue to change. But so now you've got a, Daron, are you familiar with Bob Goff?
Oh yeah, I love Bob.
Oh, so when pandemic hit, someone called me and said, "Hey, you got to get into this Bob Goff guy." And I'm like, "Send me a video clip." And he sends me a video clip, and I am just within 3 minutes. His very first statement, if you believe in purpose in life, and I do believe that you do, Daron.
Yeah.
I open up this and I hit play, and this is the first statement that's made. When you meet Bob Goff, I don't want you to meet his opinions. I want you to meet love. And I was done, because Daron, I think you can attest to the listeners, which if it's Scott Lang as your guest, will be my golden retriever and my 7-year-old, who will just mock me. But you remember, Daron, I am not short on opinions, and I am not short on sharing my opinions. And as a professional speaker, which is what you are, we get paid to share our opinions. So imagine this, Daron, I'm more opinionated than when you met me. Now, I know I hope I'm better at delivering them, and I hope I'm more flexible in implementing them. But when I opened that video and it said, "I want someone to meet love, not my opinions," and it really resonated with me. I'm like, what do people meet when they meet Scott Lang? And I wouldn't say it's love, but I would say it's energy. And I would say it's positive energy, and that I hope that my energy drives people to do things that bring them love. And so like when you said write a book, I would love to spend time talking with you about that. I've written 6 of them, and and I think what when people reach out and say, "Well, what's your best advice?" and I say, write in the voice that means something to you. Don't worry about what your editor says. Don't worry about what other people think. Write in the voice that means something to you. And so my writing voice is very quirky and very irreverent and very like squirrel, because that's the way I like to read.
Yeah. I
like to read things that are fun, quirky, irreverent, and tell stories. Like you tell me a story and I don't realize you taught me something. So I want to come back to that because we've gone squirrel. But I want to finish my Bob Goff, my Bob Goff story. So he has a theory and it's called "Always Be Talking to Your Next Best Self." So he said, and I'm gonna Scott Langey's his theory. He says we live in versions of our life. Version 1.0 is 0 to 10. Version 2.0 is 10 to 20. Version 3.0 is 20 to 30. And he says that as you move through life, you always want to be looking to where the next version of yourself is. And he says, because how can you get there if you don't know where they are? Now, my takeaway is a little bit different. So I look at life as a sliding scale.
Okay.
And 0 to 10 is all about you and 90% about other people. Version 2.0, 10 to 20, is 20% about other people and 80% about you. 20 to 30, and so on and so forth. And so as you grow and evolve, what you learn is it's less about you and more about others. And that is expedited by life-changing events like having children or the passing of parents or a grave illness. But the way I looked at it was I got turned on to Bob when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I remember reading, and I thought to myself, the next version, 6.0 of Scott, and it's a little bit ethereal, but I think you and your listeners will identify this.
Yeah.
He's out there and he's watching me. And when I get to 62, Daron, I want to get a big bear hug from him. And I want him to say, you were at your best when life was at its worst. You were the best father you could be. You were the best parent you could be. You were the best spouse you could be. You navigated a global pandemic. And I will tell you that the global pandemic has been the single greatest year of my life.
Wow.
Because it challenged me to rise to my true potential. Not navigating, well, I got to get on a plane, got another engagement. Well, I got a writing assignment. Oh, the deadline for the next book. It was stop. And I had a choice to run away from the fire or run towards the fire. And embrace that moment. Because the way I look at it is every day we have two buckets put in front of us, and they're buckets not of our choice. The global pandemic is real. And it put a bucket in front of us, a bucket of burden. The business is closed. There's no more travel. The publishers shut, it's a burden. And then there's a bucket of blessing. And you choose the bucket you carry around every day.
Yeah.
You choose it. And I don't choose to pick up that damn burden of bucket ever again. And I believe if the next version of me can look back at me and say, you were at your best when life was at its worst. If I can make myself proud, then I've done something.
Yeah.
I've truly risen to the moment. And so what you're looking at is not my house. I bought a cabin in the woods. And I taught myself how to renovate stuff. And my kids and I, we go fishing and we tool around in the woods and we catch things. And we got a puppy and we're training it. And I am just bound and determined to make the next version of me proud of the person I am today. And that was Bob Goff that started me on that journey.
I love it. I love it. I think so many people, I think the sad part, Scott, is that so many people, we all went through the past 18 months, right? But so many people either didn't choose or didn't have the insight and the ability to understand the opportunity that it brought.
And they will, here's the sad part. They'll see it in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
And say, I wished I would have.
Yep.
And when I go around and talk to people and I do, events or podcasts, I challenge them. I say, take a pen and paper and write down 5 things that have become better in your life because of COVID.
Wow. Yeah.
I have been home with my children. I have created this. We have had memories and experiences. I have spent more time with my wife, and I have been looking for a way to get off the road because I was on the road 200 days a year. You can appreciate this, Daron. I would wake up on Monday, fly, speak that night, fly Tuesday, speak that night, fly. I was in 5 cities a week.
Wow.
And I kept saying to my wife, after 17 years, the grind is real and I don't know how much longer I can take it. COVID gave me that opportunity to stop and reinvent, not just stop, you're not traveling, but stop and go, right, what is the next version of me? Okay, that you don't want this to be the next version of you. Right. And now you've been given the time and the space to design the next version of you. And that's what the last 15 months have been about. It's been redesigning the next version of Scott Lang. And I have thoroughly enjoyed it. And so, talking to your listeners, because that's what this is about. It's the people who are listening to us, is, to stop and write down 5 things in your life that are better because of COVID. Maybe you're able to spend more time with your kids. Maybe you've refocused your work-life balance priority. Maybe you did a bucket list thing like a rafting trip, or went to do something that you wouldn't have otherwise done. Make that list, and that's the top part of the list. What are 5 things that your life is better, that as we gradually reopen the doors, that you don't want to lose those 5 things? Maybe it's I want to work from home every once in a while. Maybe it's I'd rather work 4 days a week and work 10 hours. Maybe it's I don't want to do this job anymore. And, with every place and on the planet looking for qualified help, that's a unique opportunity for employment or job changes that you wouldn't have had without COVID. Maybe you saved a ton of money because you weren't going out. You didn't go on vacation. Now you have an opportunity to invest in your future, or start your own business, or write a book. So the first thing I would want a listener to do is write down 5 things that you don't want to lose as we reopen, you want to keep. And then the second thing I want you to do is take some time and redesign the next version of you. And where is the place, where is the space, where is the work that brings you the most joy? And run towards that space. And I will tell you, I don't think we could have had these experiences without COVID. So, I say with great reverence, COVID is real. COVID kills, COVID hurts, COVID scars. But it also brought a bucket of blessing our way. And if we only grabbed the bucket of burden and didn't grab the bucket of blessing, then it was for nothing. But if you grab the bucket of blessing, it doesn't change the bucket of burden, but you can say, yes, there was suffering. Yes, there was pain. Yes, there was loss, but look what I got from it. I mean, it was as real for me as forever. My business closed in one day. I was in Chicago, Illinois on February 28th. I was due to go back out on March 3rd, and it closed. But it wasn't a bad thing. My son and I, we built a 2-story tree fort in my house with air conditioning, electric, and a TV. We lived in it for like 2.5 months.
Are you serious?
And I did. And I called it my comfort. It was my fort, but it was for comfort. And it dates, this is gonna sound crazy. It's off topic. Listeners, you can turn on, Neil Diamond's greatest hits right now. So when I was a child, I lived in a closet for 2 years. You ready for that?
What?
And not a big closet, a little long, narrow closet, like you slide the door open. I ran electric to it, and it's gonna make sense in it. So between the ages of 6 and 10, my house was robbed 3 times. And we caught all of them. We walked in on all of them. Oh. The third one, I woke up and he was standing on my bed. What? He'd broken through the window. Yeah, broken through the window. My bed was next to a window. Jumped on my bed, jumped on the floor. He landed on a model I was building for my younger brother's birthday, a little airplane model with glue and everything. And it made a noise. And I woke up and he jumped on my bed, looked at me, and then leaped out the window. And so I figured, now this is a 7, 8, 9-year-old. Yeah. You have kids that age, I think. They can't hurt me if they can't find me, and they can't find me in the closet. So I lived in a closet for 2 years. I had a lamp. My dog would sleep with me. I had a sleeping bag. I had a fan. I tricked it out. When I came out of the closet, which is, you can take that sentence for what it's worth, but when I came out of the closet, I realized that small spaces give me comfort. And that's why I'm up in a little loft. I like this space to work in. So I realized after about 3 weeks of living in the fort, it was for comfort. In a time when I could control nothing, the world was closing. I had a small space where my son and I could spend our time, and I wrote and I did all of my work. I literally became my office. So that's a little bit of a right turn from what we were talking about. But, find your safe space, wherever that is. And if that's in the woods, fantastic. If that's at a day spa, fantastic. If that's in a mountain retreat in North Phoenix, fantastic.
Yeah.
because where you feel safe is where you're most creative.
I think but the quote that keeps coming to my mind as you're talking right now is I think it was Richard Rohr that said, and I'm going to screw the quote up, but basically he talked about two of the pathways that he believes God uses to get us to a place of breakthrough is wonder and suffering. And the combination of those are two buckets, like you're talking about, that a lot of times we avoid suffering, which is that burden bucket. And we don't really like mystery or wonder either, because we can't control it. We don't know what it is, but it's in those two that will actually allow us, if we'll embrace them and walk into them, that actually unlocks, a new discovery, whether it's of him or of ourself. And I think that, what we've gone through in the past 18 months, it's equal parts that there was suffering, no doubt about it. But then there was also a lot of mystery. There was also a lot of wonder. And if we could step into that, I think we are looking back and going, wait a second, this was like, I wouldn't have ordered it off the menu, right? But this was a gift.
So think about it. If your listeners look up and pull over your car before you look this up, because texting, driving, it's just not safe. Just say no. But if you pull up the Chinese character for crisis, it's two characters. One represents danger, the other represents opportunity.
Yeah.
And that with every crisis and they're a yin and a yang, by the way. They're inversely yet proportionately related. So what people want in this world is low danger, high reward.
Yep.
And what they don't understand, it doesn't work that way. That if there's high danger, then there's high reward. If there's low danger, low risk, then there's low reward. So if you're feeling safe, if you're feeling secure, if you're not feeling angst, then you're probably not going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling really insecure and you're feeling a lot of angst and you're feeling a lot of discomfort, then you're going to get a lot out of it. And we as people, and we Americans especially, want high reward, low risk.
Yep.
And that just ain't the way the world works. So embrace the risk and find the reward. It's not going to present it to yourself on a golden platter. You're not going to wake up one morning going, I think I'll start a business in Bluffton, Indiana. I think it'll be dry cleaning, and I think I'll franchise it through Tide. That's not the way it works. You got to go do the dirty work. You got to think. You got to wonder. You like you said, you got to redesign yourself. And so when I go back to that, 5 assignments, find 5 things and that were a blessing, and then redesign yourself. Where does that lead you? And that's not an afternoon process.
Yeah.
That's an afternoon. And then you come back 2 days later and you scratch 3 things out. Here's my list that I've already scratched 3 things out of. I don't think that would be a good thing to do this year. That wouldn't be, I thought it was 2 days ago, but the more I think about it and redesign yourself. And the last thing I would share is, as you're redesigning yourself, and I said, run to a place of joy. So you work out. You've always been in good shape. I mean, yeah, I try, I try and keep in good shape. But so I'm going to ask you a question. So Daron, if you work out, will you get stronger? Yes or no?
Yes.
Absolutely. Good. If you don't work out, will you become weaker? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, so you are in control to some extent of your own strengths and weaknesses. Fair point, Daron?
Yep.
Okay, so this concept I'm going to share with you is similar to strengths and weaknesses, but it's not. I call it blessings and curses.
All right.
So every one of us has blessings in our life. Every one of us has curses. The bottom line is, though, we can't control them. They are a part of who we are. Now, not everyone agrees with me in this theory, and that's okay, because I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying I'm right for me. That once you hit the age of 16, 17, 18 years old, once you hit the age of 16, 17, 18 years old, the person you are is the person you will be for the rest of your life. You will not change. People, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get married. Yes, you'll do all of that. You will have all these experiences and you will become more educated, but you will not fundamentally change. So, Daron, it's maybe a shocker. When I was in high school, I was in a band. I was the drum major. I had a big mouth. I was not afraid of conflict. I got in your grill. You did what I said and you didn't have a choice. And that's the way we played. How much has changed in 52 years, Daron?
At a ton.
No, I'm telling you. If you're empathetic now, you'll be empathetic in the future. If you're a holy hot disorganizational mess now, you'll be one in the future. If you're a people person now, you'll be one. And the thing is, we screw this up so bad. And I don't want to say schools, but in life in general, and school's such a part of that developmental experience, that we are so obsessed with making people something they're not. Yeah. We're going to teach you, and because think about it, if you're not good at something, The answer is to do it more. If you fail, if you're struggling, what was your worst subject in high school, Darren?
Math.
Geometry. Geometry makes no. And here's the thing: it's like, well, we've got to have all this math, and then math is important. Never once in my life have I looked at a wall and said, "I got to find the hypotenuse to that right angle." You got to do that. I mean, seriously, this is a successful business. You're on a podcast. I use a calculator for everything I do, and I've got a master's degree. So here's the thing. If you're not good at math, I mean, we're going to spend some more time with you to get you better at math. If you're not good at math, Darren, we're going to get you a tutor so you can, get better at math. If you're not good at math, Darren, we're probably going to have you take another class. And if you're not good at math, Darren, you'll fail and you have to do summer school and you'll have to do, online school. And because if you're not good at something, we want to make it you better at. That we want to turn that frown upside down. And here's my theory. If you're bad at something, stop doing it. You're bad. I'm not good at math either. And you can give me all the math in the world and I will take math and I will get better at math. But I still don't think you want me to be your accountant unless you want to go to jail. Just not my jam.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing is that we want to make people well-rounded. Well, we want you to be well-rounded. We want to make those. There's two problems with being well-rounded. Number one is, answer this question, Darren. Can you name anyone in the history of the world that's ever been admired for being well-rounded?
No.
No. The answer is no. Now, you could make an argument. There's one, Da Vinci, but it wasn't that he was well-rounded. Is that he was extraordinary at everything. Like tonight, I'm not going to admire Devin Booker's ability to understand mid-Elizabethan poetry. He does one thing well. Chris Paul, mid-range jumper.
Yep.
Beyonce, entertain. Like, the thing is, what we're doing is blessings and curses. Blessings are things that you either find easy or they bring you great joy in life. Curses are things that you find difficult or give you angst. So now you can have a blessing in your life that is you're not good at. There's a piano downstairs, a little keyboard, and I'm not a good singer, and I'm not a good piano player, but it's a blessing in my life. Me and Billy Joel every night for 20 minutes, period. Like, I don't have to be good at it. It has to bring me joy. So the problem is, number one, we're teaching kids to be, I don't want to say teaching kids. The experience they're getting embraces more mediocrity than it does excellence. Because hear me well when I say this. You do the most good in the world when you're doing what you're most good at.
Ooh, yeah.
You do the most good in the world. Now, you're going to appreciate this because you were a part of my experience and I was a part of your experience. You do the most good in the world when you're doing what you're most good at. And it's the opportunity cost of personal development, that every moment I'm doing something I'm bad at is one less moment that I could have been doing something that I'm good at.
Yeah.
So every moment I took another math class was one less moment I was in the music room. Every moment I took a fractal geometry class in college was another moment I wasn't studying music theory. And if you think about it, I would have been a better prepared teacher had I been more running towards my blessings. So understanding blessings are things that you're good at or bring you great joy, and curses are things that you're bad at or bring you angst. You do the most good in the world when you're doing what you're most good at. When people ask me, what do you do? I say, I run around, I talk to band kids about the importance of music in your life and personal development. And they look at me funny, like, that's a job? And I say, yeah, well, how? And I say, because I do this better than anything in my life. And I mean anything. And so that's what I do. I was thinking about this in prep for this podcast. We place premiums and values on what people do and not how they do it. Well, a lawyer is better than a street sweeper. Says who? If he is the world's, so you ready for this? Darren, if you could do one occupation that would help the world, cure the most sickness, end the most disease, famine, pestilence, and plague, one job, what job would you do?
Me personally?
Yeah. What job would you have someone do? Let's do it that way. What job would do the most good in the world? And listeners, I want you to answer out loud. Do, 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 Do 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 boom boom. What's your answer, Daron? Contestant Earlewine.
Man, I don't want to get it wrong. I'm going to say
No, you're going to get it wrong. Trust me.
All right. I was going to guess like maybe like a teacher, because they could teach people to like fix all the problems. I'm going to go teacher.
All right. Everyone in the audience land, including my golden retriever and my mother, pave streets. Do you know why we have pandemics and why we have AIDS epidemics and why people are hungry? We can't get the food to them in time before it spoils. In Africa, we can't get medicine to people in time before it expires. There's no let alone good streets, no more car accidents, people are safer. But we don't place a premium on street pavers, do we? No, you got to be a lawyer or a doctor or that. What I do should be based on how I do it, not what I do. And so someone said to me, well, when LeBron James went to LA and he got that ridiculous contract, it was like $32 million a year. And someone said to me, well, that's ridiculous. And I said, you're absolutely correct. It's ridiculous. He's so freaking underpaid. It just kills me. And the guy lit up. I said, well, sure he is. Think about it. How many people are, so the Suns, we'll use the Suns, Devin Booker, $26 million a year. How many people are employed in the Suns organization because of him? How many people work at the Suns arena because of him? How many people are working in downtown running businesses because of him? How many people work at ad agencies that write ads for him? How many people work at television stations all across the country that are running how many people work at Nike and sew his garments and his shoes? Here's the big thing. You take LeBron James, how many mothers and sons and fathers and daughters are going to have an experience sitting on a couch tonight cheering for the same team? How many people, young people of color in Cleveland, look at a street corner and see a dealer and they see a basketball court and choose a basketball court because of him? How many, Cleveland, and I love you, Cleveland, but it's been a troubled past for you. How many people did he make happy when he brought home a championship to that team? What kind of civic pride did he bring? Don't tell me he's undervalued. But here's the problem. If the best basketball player in the world makes $26 million, I don't place a premium on what someone does. It's how they do it. I think the best teacher in the world should make $26 million. I think the best mother in the world should make $26 million. I think the best street sweeper in the world should make $26 million. I want people to run towards their blessings, whatever they are. If your blessing is to go out and speak the word of God and the gospel of Jesus to people, and you're the best at it, then the premium should be the same as if we do any job. Because what we do is what we tell people, oh, your blessing's valuable and yours isn't. My blessing is to teach. Well, we place that at a premium of $32,000 a year. Well, but I don't understand. Why is my blessing less valuable than someone else's blessing? So I tell people, and here's the thing you have to understand, coming full circle to blessings and curses, is that we all have blessings and we all have curses. And the goal of the world in general and the educational process is to minimize the curses. The problem is when you do that, you minimize the blessings. You minimize the impact. And here's why. Your blessings and your curses are one and the same thing. And if you take away a curse, you've taken away a blessing. I am not a naturally gifted musician. I had to spend 5 hours in a practice room to what someone like you would learn in 15 minutes. It taught me work ethic. You won't beat me in work ethic, Daron. You won't get up earlier than me. You won't stay up later than me. You won't work harder than me. I don't need food. I don't need sleep. And I don't need water. I learned that because of my curse. That was an opportunity for me. My blessing is I get to travel the world and talk to the greatest kids on the planet. My curse is I have to leave my kids to do it. Can't have one without the other. They complete the circle. My blessing is I can talk for a living. My curse is I never shut up. What makes me good at my job makes me a bad spouse, doesn't it? I mean, do you find, Daron, that the more you speak, the less you listen? It's an occupational hazard. And if you've mastered it, God, teach me. Because I've been on this podcast, it's been 33 minutes, and I think you've said 7 words. So seriously, there's something wrong here. It's pathological, Daron. I've got a problem. I need to go to word rehab.
Word rehab.
all that is. Literally, is that I don't, people are like, we need to make you better at math. No, you don't. You need to find someone whose blessing is math and give them the space to run.
Yep.
My life will be better. And the thing, it's like I always say, I want America's mathematicians to be the finest mathematicians in the world. I just don't think you want me to be one of them, because when I'm good at linear analytical, but when you become abstract, a square prime, I see the color white, and I'm not kidding. I colorize it. And I'll marching bandize it. I can clean drill within an inch of its life, but the band got a whole lot better when I hired someone to write it, because I don't see it. It's not here. You want me to, don't say, Scott, what should I write a book about? Hand me your book. Let me read it, and then I'll be able to give you an answer. I need to see, touch, feel, experience things, and nothing is ever going to change that. And could you make me more patient? Yes. Will I ever be patient? No. And the thing is, my impatience is my drive. Make me more patient, then I get less done. We are a whole human being, and we have to embrace our curses as much as our blessings. Now, we want to minimize our curses. I pay someone to do my taxes. I don't expose myself to that. But the beauty of that is that allows me 3 extra hours in my life to go do something that has an impact in the world.
Yeah.
Because you do the most good when you're doing what you're most good at. If that's being a mom, that's where you do the most good in the world. If that's painting something, go paint. If that's writing, go write. If that's singing, go sing. If that's coding, go code. But don't let someone make you something you weren't born to be. We were all born to be something. Find that pathway. Start with your blessings, write 3 of them down. Start with your curses, write 3 of them down. Look at what brings you the most joy in your life, and look at what brings you the most angst, and redesign your life around joy. Redesign your life around joy. Because you're never going to get an opportunity like this pandemic again. I would have probably never have chosen to do this or some of the other things I did. And I'm not, can I give you one more example?
Yeah. Yes.
And I wish I had it up. And to the listeners, this isn't meant to talk about something you don't know about or me, but so I wrote a book. My latest book is called Music Foundations. And it's a music method book like you used, Essential Elements or whatever you used in 6th grade, 5th grade. Do you remember the book?
No.
Do you remember the color of the book?
Yeah, it was the very first in 5th grade when I joined band. It was black with gold print on it.
It was Essential Elements. Yeah, you did Essential Elements.
Okay.
So anyway, I wrote a method book, and I used characters, and I infused social emotional learning, leadership, into music method. I structured it. So there's characters, and they're in wheelchairs, and they have autism and learning challenges, and they're people of color. Well, when the pandemic hit, my publisher closed, and the book was done. And I was crushed for about 3 days. And then I just went, well, I can do this. So I hired an artist in South America, and I got an editor and a composer. We all worked. The bottom line, 3 months later, it was done. And I now realize it's 108 pages, full color. And I realized the publisher would have never published it anyway. It's too expensive. It's supposed to be 46 pages and not color. That's too expensive. And we would have fought for 2 years, and it still would have never been published. And it would have been a missed opportunity. And that book is the thing I'm most proud of in my professional life. It's the best work I've ever done in my life. Wow. And if it weren't for COVID, it would have never been published.
Wow. So good.
This is a window, man. And the window's not going to stay open forever. And this window is going to get nailed shut when it's done. We're not going to go through this in our lifetime again, I hope, knock on wood. So take these last 2 months and seize the moment. Take the 5 things you don't want to change because of COVID. Write them down to make sure they move forward. List your 3 blessings. List your 3 curses. And then redesign your life around the blessings. Run towards the blessings.
And we're back. We're back. We're running towards the joy. Dang it. I mean, you kidding me, Scott Lang? Just get me all fired up. I want to do push-ups and sit-ups and a pull-up or two right now. I tell you what, I had some PTSD. There was a moment when Scott was getting fired up, and if you watch the, you got to go to YouTube and watch it. But he does these motions where he's giving his points, and he does this finger thing like this with his hand, and it was scary. I was 16 years old getting screamed at for being out of time and late to marching band with a Pop-Tart and a Sunny Delight. I tell you what, it was a freaky moment. Because there were some moments, I wish we would have gotten into it, but he was too fired up that he could have told some moments. There's a moment that he yelled at our drum line, told us to run, and we were jerks and we weren't running. And he literally came running down the bleachers of the football field and started chasing us across the football field and threw his microphone at us. And it was scary. It was a very scary moment. I've been in counseling, but it's fine. God's healing me. But no, Scott Lang, absolute ball of positive energy and motivation. Run to the joy. There's so much in this episode, guys. It is so hand in glove to what we teach you every single week, talking about becoming who you're born to be, and everything that I teach in the Spiritual DNA online course, which Spiritual DNA 2.0, real close to being out here in the end of the summer of 2021. I can't wait for you guys to have the new version of Spiritual DNA. But when Scott's talking about, right, to actually move to the place where you run to joy, where you go and you do the most good in the world when you're doing what you're most good at. That's the idea of discovering your strengths and who God's created you to be, so you can actually begin to leverage those for practically perfect performance and what he's called you to do and what he's constructed you to do and what brings you the most joy. Right? What the world needs most right now is millions of people who are fully awakened to become what they were born to be. Because the problems and the struggles and the disheartening things, that make us cry, the things that bring our heart to life, that we want to see change in the world, right? They're not going to be fixed by people who are just kind of ho-hum meandering through life, hoping to accidentally become who God's created them to be. They're going to be fixed. They're going to be created by people who actually move forward and create the future that's currently on the heart and the mind of God, by them actually partnering up with God, coming to trust him enough to actually give him back the good stuff of their life and go do what they were created to do and what they do better than most other people. And that's what we're inviting you to do. That's why you got to take Spiritual DNA and figure that out. Figure out the strengths that you've been given. Figure out the 5 things that you do practically perfect over anyone else in the world, because it's the way the 2 hemispheres of your brain have been put together. Go figure out the way that you actually speak and lead within God's kingdom and on this earth. That's actually an archetype of God's actual character and design that's been placed within you. Go discover the actual motivations and things that are your why, the things that drive you in the depths of who you are. Understand that and give that back to God and a road back to who you were created to be, and show up every day and run to the joy that he's put out in front of you. Such good stuff. And the one quote, you do the most good in the world when what you're, I can't even say it. Let me try it again. The quote, you do the most good in the world I wrote it wrong in the freaking notes. Gonna have to edit this out. Son of a gun. You do the most good in the world when you're doing. There's the word that's missing. I mean, this one quote alone right here, right? You do the most good in the world when you're doing what you're most good at. The part where Scott talks about the pain and the sorrow for people who never discover that and waste their life. Honestly, guys, that's kind of what wakes me up every day and keeps me going. That's why I want to spend the next decade, like I talk about in this episode, talking to the next generation, because I can't handle the sorrow of thinking of someone living their whole life and wasting it, thinking that they don't matter, thinking that they're inconsequential, thinking that there's not something that they've been uniquely created to do. I get so fired up about what Scott was saying, because what I realize is that it's straight out of the Word of God. Like when I talk about Ephesians chapter 2:10, that says that you are the craftsmanship, the workmanship of Christ Jesus, created in advance to do good works, right? That created in him to do good works, which he's created. I can't even speak today. Ephesians 2, where it says you're the workmanship of God, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which he's prepared in advance for you to do. Like you have a mission and a purpose and you're going to be good at it, right? God doesn't make below average and be like, we'll just throw this out here or whatever. No. Discover what you do better than everyone else and leverage that. I love what he talked about not being well-rounded. I talk about that every time I teach spiritual DNA, right? You're a part of the pie of humanity, but guess what you are? You're one piece. And guess what pieces of pie are? They're all edges. Don't be well-rounded. Come up, get into the process and discover the unique things that you do and then leverage and bet the farm on becoming that person. Oh, so good. Listen, here's what I want you to do. That's already a long episode. I'm getting fired up. I need to go. I need to have a cup of coffee or something and sit down and just come down off the high of talking to Scott Lang. Here's what I want you to do. Scott encourages in there to write down 5 things that are better in our life because of COVID. And I don't want you to miss this window, and neither does he, is to take and actually reflect on this, the bucket of burden, the bucket of blessing that he talked about here. Because in the next episode, Scott's going to take me through this exercise, and I want you to go through it with me. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to after you get done listening, I want you to sit down, whether it's in your phone, computer, journal, whatever it is, and I want you to reflect with the past 18 months and write down at least 5 things that are better in your life because of COVID. Things you changed, as he talked about. Maybe you spent less money. Maybe you spent more time with family and friends. Maybe you read more. Maybe you started a new hobby. Whatever it is, what are the 5 things that during the quarantine and during COVID that you changed in your life that made it better, that you don't want to go back the way they were? Take the time and write it down. Right? You've heard the quote, right? That hope is not a plan. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, you're not going to become who you were born to be, who God's. So if you say, well, I hope that I'll keep these same things in my life. And no, as he talked about these different versions of yourself, right? Version 3.0 of yourself is not going to become exactly who you want it to be and who God wants it to be and who you be proud of because you hope it'll get there. You need to write it down. You need to come up with a plan. So take some time. I want you to write down the 5 things, okay? The 5 things that are better in your life because of COVID. And when we come down we'll come together next time, we're going to actually walk through these, okay? I'd also like you to do this. He's going to workshop us with this in the next episode, is write down the 3 greatest blessings in your life, your 3 best talents, abilities, your best blessings, things that bring you joy, right? We talked about this, the idea that these are things that are easy for us and they bring us great joy, these blessings. I want you to write down your top 3. And I want you to take some time and look at what are things that bring you some angst or maybe you're bad at them, right? Or they don't bring you joy. I want you to write those down so that when we sit down for the next episode, next Wednesday, you can take a look at those 5 things you did that you changed during COVID that you don't want to change. You want them to stay a part of your life. And then 3 blessings and 3 curses. I want you to write those down and I want you to spend the next week kind of marinating on them, right? Praying through them, meditating them, looking at them, thinking about them, maybe discussing them with people in your life. So that when we come together next week, Scott's going to take us through a process. He's going to take me through a process of kind of workshopping these ideas, and you are going to take some steps, the next steps you need to take to become who you were born to be. And what he's going to challenge you to do is to actually beginning to redesign your life around who God has created you to be. Here's would be a great plan, and we'll see if the timing works out when we're hustling. Is you listen to these episodes, you get some of this stuff written down, you get some plans ready to move forward, and then you jump into Spiritual DNA 2.0 and discover exactly who God's created you to be, and then begin to redesign your life towards the joy and through the purpose and the meaning and the calling that God has on your life. Because you are not an accident, friend. You are not a rerun. You are not like everybody else. You are uniquely designed in God's image, and you have a unique call on your life. And the cool part is you're actually uniquely designed to be great at it, because you are going to do the most good in the world when you're doing what you're most good at. Oh, I told you guys, Scott Lang just killing it this episode. I think I'm going to go join a marching band again. Just get back at it. That's my impersonation of me playing snare drum in the marching band. So good. So good. All right. Write this stuff down. Think about it. Pray about it. And then come to the next week's episode with a lot of momentum as we workshop these 5 things, the blessings and the curses, and we emerge from this COVID season, you're going to be on a fast track of becoming the next best version of yourself, whether that's version 2.0, 3.0, 4, 5, or 6.0 for you, or maybe you're in your 70s and it's version 7.0. It's good days. Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Send me a text, 317-550-5070. Would love to communicate with you. Send me an email, Daron@blackbirdmission.com. Or always, all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, reach out. Would love to stay connected with you guys. Twitter, too. I'm on Twitter as well. It's never fun when it's just a monologue. It's fun when we can dialogue. Have an amazing week. I'll talk to you next Wednesday. And never forget, God is for you. He's not against you. God is near you. He is not far away. And he has created you on purpose and for a purpose. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Daron Earlewine Podcast.